There was a time when the world didn't ask for our attention every second of the day. The morning arrived quietly. Sunlight slipped through the curtains. Somewhere down the street, a screen door slammed shut. A dog barked in the distance. A bicycle tire rolled over cracked pavement. And somehow, without a single text message or notification, life simply began. We didn't know it then, but we were living inside a world that would one day disappear. Before we begin, if these stories remind you of a place you've carried in your heart for years, I'd love for you to subscribe. Every week, we preserve the memories that shaped a generation, one story at a time. And while you're listening today, think about this question. What is one ordinary memory from your childhood that still feels vivid after all these years? I'd love to read your answer in the comments. Looking back now, it wasn't perfection that made those years special. It was their ordinariness. Back then, the ordinary moments never asked to be remembered. They simply happened. You walked outside after breakfast without checking the weather on your phone, because there was no phone to check. You didn't ask if your friends were available. You just rode your bike to the usual corner. And somehow, someone was always there. No group chat. No location sharing. No endless planning. Just trust. Trust that your friends would show up, because that's what they always did. It's strange to think about now. We spent our childhood searching for adventure, never realizing that one day we'd spend our adulthood searching for those childhood afternoons instead. Freedom looked different back then. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't something you booked months in advance. Freedom was the sound of your bicycle tires humming against warm pavement. It was climbing a tree, because you wondered what the world looked like from the top. It was staying outside until the streetlights flickered on, knowing that was your only reminder to head home. No calendar alert. No smartwatch. Just the quiet agreement between the neighborhood and the setting sun. Those evenings carried a rhythm that no one planned. Mothers called children home from front porches. Fathers finished washing the family car, while neighbors leaned over fences talking about work, baseball, or nothing important at all. Someone down the street was grilling dinner. Someone else had music drifting from an open window. Every house seemed to breathe together. Looking back, we weren't just living beside one another. We belonged to one another. Neighborhoods weren't collections of houses. They were communities stitched together by everyday moments. If your bicycle broke down, another parent helped fix it. If you stayed too long at a friend's house, their mother probably fed you dinner before sending you home. Everyone seemed to know your name. And somehow, that made the world feel smaller. Safer. Kinder. It's easy to miss the toys. The cassette tapes. The Saturday morning cartoons. But perhaps that's not what we truly miss. Maybe what we miss is how those things made us feel. Because a bicycle was never just a bicycle. It was independence. A cassette wasn't just music. It became the soundtrack of first crushes, long summer afternoons, and dreams too big for words. Even an old baseball glove carried more than leather. It carried friendships. Victories. Arguments. Laughter. The smell of fresh-cut grass. Tiny pieces of ourselves. Somewhere along the way, we stopped collecting moments and started collecting schedules. Life became faster, more connected. Yet somehow, many of us have never felt farther apart. We gained incredible technology. We gained convenience. We gained endless information. But every gain quietly asked for something in return. And before we realized it, The world that raised us had slowly faded into memory. Not because it wasn't good enough to survive, but because time never asks permission before it moves on. Why Gen X still misses a world that no longer exists. Part 2, The Memory Keeper. Approx. 3 to 4 minutes. If you've made it this far, thank you for spending these moments with me. If these memories have brought a smile to your face, or perhaps even a tear to your eye, I hope you'll subscribe and become part of this community. Every week, we come together to remember the ordinary moments that quietly shaped extraordinary lives. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you looked up at the evening sky without feeling the need to check your phone? It sounds like such a simple question. Yet for many of us, the answer is harder than we'd like to admit. Back then, waiting wasn't an inconvenience. It was simply part of life. You waited for your favorite television show all week, because there was no button to watch it whenever you wanted. You waited for a letter to arrive. You waited for vacation. You waited for summer. You waited for Christmas morning. And somehow, those moments felt bigger, because they couldn't be rushed. Today, almost everything arrives instantly. Music, movies, messages, answers. But anticipation, that beautiful feeling of looking forward to something, has quietly become one of the rarest emotions of all. Perhaps that's one of the reasons old memories still feel so precious. They remind us what it was like to earn our excitement, to savor it, to let it grow. Even silence meant something different. Do you remember long car rides? The radio softly playing in the background. Your parents talking in the front seat. You staring out the window, watching telephone poles disappear one after another. No one was trying to fill every quiet moment. Somehow, silence gave our imagination room to breathe. We invented stories. We dreamed about the future. We wondered who we might become. Those quiet hours weren't empty. They were building us. And then there were the photographs. Not thousands hidden inside a phone. Just a few. Carefully taken. Carefully developed. Carefully placed inside albums that sat on coffee tables for years. Every picture mattered because every click of the camera mattered. You couldn't take another 100 until one looked perfect. You accepted the imperfections. Closed eyes. Crooked smiles. Blurred moments. Because real life had never been perfect. And somehow, those imperfect photographs became perfect memories. Looking back now, it's almost impossible to separate the people from the places. Certain songs still bring back old bedrooms. The smell of fresh-cut grass reminds us of little league games. Rain on a window carries us back to family vacations. A simple porch swing somehow remembers conversations we've long forgotten. Isn't that remarkable? Places never truly disappear. They simply find new homes inside our hearts. Maybe that's why returning to an old neighborhood can feel so emotional. The houses have changed. The trees have grown taller. The faces are different. Yet somewhere beneath all those changes, a younger version of ourselves is still riding a bicycle down that same street. Still laughing. Still believing summer would last forever. The truth is, we don't really miss the old world because it was easier. Life wasn't always easy. Families struggled. Money was often tight. Hearts were broken. Dreams sometimes faded. We miss it because people seemed to have more time for one another. Time to visit. Time to listen. Time to sit quietly on a front porch as the sun disappeared behind the trees. Perhaps we've never really been searching for the past. Perhaps we've been searching for that feeling. The feeling of belonging. The feeling of enough. The feeling that simply being together was reason enough to smile. And maybe that's something no generation should ever lose. Why Gen X still misses a world that no longer exists. Part 3, The Memory Keeper. Approx. 3 to 4 minutes. Maybe that's why these memories refuse to fade. Not because the world was perfect, but because we were present enough to truly live inside it. Back then, nobody told us we were making memories. There was no voice whispering, "One day you'll miss this." Life simply unfolded. One ordinary day after another. And perhaps that's the greatest surprise of growing older. It isn't the extraordinary moments that stay with us the longest. It's the ordinary ones. The walk home from school. The sound of a screen door closing behind you. The smell of dinner drifting through the neighborhood. The bicycle leaning against the porch. The radio playing softly while everyone talked over one another. Those moments never asked to become precious. Time quietly made them that way. As children, we couldn't wait to grow up. We imagined freedom meant getting older. Driving our own cars. Having our own homes. Making our own decisions. And eventually, we reached those dreams. Only to discover that every new chapter quietly closed another one behind it. No one tells you that one afternoon will be the last time your friends gather on that old street. No one tells you that one Christmas morning will quietly become the last one, with everyone around the table. No one tells you that one summer evening will be the last time your parents wave from the front porch. Life doesn't announce its endings. It simply keeps moving. Perhaps that's why memory is such a beautiful gift. It allows us to visit places that no longer exist. To hear voices that have gone quiet. To walk streets that time has changed. To sit once again beside people who shaped our lives. Not because we can return, but because love has a way of preserving what time cannot. The older I become, the more I realize something. The world didn't only change around us. We changed with it. The children who once raced bicycles until sunset became the parents who worried when their own children stayed out too late. The teenagers who promised to stay friends forever became adults scattered across different cities, carrying families, responsibilities, and memories of one another. The young people who looked toward the future eventually became the people looking gently toward the past. And maybe that's exactly how life was always meant to be. Not to keep us in one season forever, but to teach us that every season carries something worth holding on to. Spring teaches us hope. Summer teaches us freedom. Autumn teaches us gratitude. Winter teaches us reflection. And together, they remind us that every ending quietly prepares us for another beginning. If you've watched this far, I'd like to ask you something from the heart. When you close your eyes tonight, what place from your childhood do you still visit in your mind? Is it a front porch? A school playground? Your grandparents' kitchen? A quiet country road? Or maybe it's simply a feeling you can no longer put into words. Share that memory in the comments. Someone reading it may find a piece of their own childhood waiting there too. And if these stories remind you that the smallest moments often become the greatest treasures, I hope you'll subscribe and join us here each week. Because this isn't just a channel about Generation X. It's a place where memories are honored, where ordinary lives are celebrated, and where the stories that shaped us are never forgotten. Before we say goodbye, I'd like to leave you with one thought. We spend much of our youth believing that happiness lives somewhere ahead of us. Then one day, we discover that some of the happiest moments were the ones we hurried through. So don't only remember the past. Learn from it. Call the friend you've been meaning to call. Sit on the porch a little longer. Watch another sunset. Listen to an old song all the way through. Tell your children the stories no photograph can capture. Hold someone's hand without checking the time. Because the memories you treasure today were once ordinary moments that almost slipped by unnoticed. And the ordinary moments you're living right now may one day become the memories someone else treasures most. So don't wait for life to become meaningful. Notice that it already is. Thank you for walking this road with me. Until next time. Take care of the people you love. Protect the memories that shaped you. Create new ones while you still can. Because some worlds disappear, but the love they gave us never does. And perhaps that's the one thing time can never take away.